Good morning. As a child, I was painfully shy, gawky, awkward, afraid of people, afraid of this world. My parents tried to do everything to give me a little more courage. They would put me in front of the camera and sometimes dress me up as a lion, thinking I would get my courage from that. But I never got my courage from that. I got my courage the second I picked up a camera. All of a sudden, I felt empowered to go out into the world and engage. It took the attention away from myself and allowed me to focus on others. Photography is really powerful, and we can transcend language and communicate these incredible stories. Here I am in Bangladesh making a film about mass migration of people being displaced by water. And now I want to flash back to one of the first stories I ever covered, which was in a tiny country in West Africa called Guinea-Bissau. It was then and is still today one of the poorest countries on the planet. And I thought I was going to stay for a couple of weeks. Those weeks turned into months. Those months turned into half a year. And what I discovered really surprised me. You know, we're usually given two distinct versions of the whole continent of Africa. You've got on one side war, famine, and plagues, and on the other extreme, you can go on a safari and see exotic animals. And what I found was a third narrative. It was a narrative of people deeply connected to the natural world. They understood that their lives depended on it. Spirits lived in these trees. There was a reverence and understanding of nature. And to the women, I was a complete mystery. They couldn't understand how I could be in my early 20s, no husband, no children, and I didn't even know how to get water out of the well. But they learned to love me, and they took care of me. And what I discovered there was how the majority of people on the planet really live. There was no electricity, access to running water, no doctors, but there was an incredible beauty in a lot that I learned there. And though these pictures in our lives may look very different, that's not what surprised me. The thing which surprised me the most was how much we shared, how much we had in common. This is Alio. He got a hold of my soap here, and on my last night in this village, the children were asking me a million questions about my return home to America. Amy, do you have cashews in America? Do you have mangoes? And then we're sitting underneath the sea of stars, and Alio looks up at this big, beautiful full moon and asks me, Amy, do you have a moon in America? And every time I see a full moon, I think of him standing under those stars. And it is like this metaphor. It's like a collective third eye looking down on this planet, and you understand all of a sudden that we are in this intricate web together. There is a oneness. And I've had the privilege now of working in over 100 countries, telling stories of war and conflict and poverty and health. And slowly, these universal truths have emerged for me. They are that we are connected. And all these stories, though they may look like they're stories about the human condition, are always stories about the natural world. You know, we depend on nature for so much of the outcome of these stories. And that's why we're all here today. You know, in a world of 7 billion people, if we don't start seeing ourselves as part of the landscape, that saving nature is really about saving ourselves. That's critical. And climate change is no longer just about polar bears. It's about every living thing. I can tell you from firsthand experiences that people are aware of and deeply frightened by the impacts of climate change. The rural poor are already living on the margins of survival with little room for error. They are acutely aware of nature's responses. There are still billions of people on this planet that don't have access to clean water. And as droughts become more frequent and are lasting longer, it's detrimental to human beings across the world, but particularly to women who carry an enormous burden. Women and girls every single day, collectively, spend 200 million hours only collecting water. You know, this one task is robbing them not just of their time, but of their potential as well. And conventional energy sources, like coal and natural gas, are contributors to climate change. If our planet dies, economic growth of any kind is really impossible. And it's not just in the developing world. I spent a great bit of time going around America documenting the impacts of climate change there too. You know, these people, their lives are both benefiting and being harmed by the coal industry. Our concept was to show how coal damages lives in all three phases of its energy cycle: when it's extracted, when it's burned, and when the waste is discarded. Dig, burn, dump. In the United States alone, coal kills 13,000 people annually, and here in Europe, it's 23,000. Asthma from poor air quality triggered by coal power plants is reaching epidemic proportions. The economic cost of the health impacts from coal in Europe alone are valued at $70 billion per year. This is the only home we have, and it belongs to all of us. I want everyone to experience the beauty and diversity that exists right now, from glaciers to deserts, to elephants, to the tiniest of ants. If we fail to act, we're essentially condemning all future generations to eternal poverty. What happens next is in all of our hands. We can reimagine a different future, and our choices now are so profound in their impact. Don't sit this one out. Be the voice, be the messenger, engage. And by the way, it's not just the message itself. It is the messenger that's also very important. Every one of us has a role to play. I want to end with this heartbreaking moment. This is me last year saying goodbye to Sudan, who was the last male northern white rhino alive on the planet. When he passed away, he essentially signaled the end of an entire species. And I show this just to say that all of life we are connected to, and that's why we're here, right? We all want to be on the right side of history, and the evidence is absolutely clear. The key thing is not to fall into the trap of thinking that this is too big to deal with or someone else is going to take care of it. It's up to all of us. It's up to you and me. Thank you so much.